Imagine a man who cannot stop thinking about you, not because you chase him, not because you manipulate him, and not because you beg for attention, but simply because of the way you exist in the world. This is not fantasy. This is psychology at its rawest, most powerful form. Sexual obsession is not about tricks, lines, or cheap games. It is about presence, energy, and subtle psychological triggers that make you unforgettable. When you understand how desire works at its deepest level, you realize that the obsession of a man is not something you create consciously. It is a natural consequence of the energy you radiate, the boundaries you uphold, and the emotional imprint you leave. He cannot resist you, and he cannot explain why, because it happens beneath his awareness, in the wiring of his mind and the chemistry of his brain. At the center of this phenomenon is something most women overlook. Men are attracted to energy, not effort. Most women think they need to work to make a man desire them, to text, flirt, or bend over backward for attention. In reality, the law of attraction in sexual obsession is exactly the opposite. When you radiate calm confidence, self-possession, and unapologetic presence, you require nothing from him, and that is precisely what triggers the deepest levels of desire. A man unconsciously chases what he cannot fully own, and when a woman exists fully in her own life without needing him, he becomes irresistibly drawn, almost as if pulled by an invisible magnetic force. This is the science of sexual obsession. It is earned by energy, not earned by effort. The second key is subtlety. Men do not become obsessed with what is obvious. They become obsessed with what they notice, but cannot fully comprehend. It's the smile that lingers a fraction longer, the way you move in a room, the quiet confidence that says, "I am complete." With or without you, these are micro-signals that leave an indelible imprint on his subconscious mind. Every glance, every laugh, every carefully timed moment of warmth or distance acts as a psychological cue that keeps him thinking about you long after you leave. Unlike overt seduction, which can feel forced or temporary, these subtle markers create a lingering fascination that grows stronger with every interaction. He is not consciously aware of why he cannot stop thinking about you. He simply is. Another critical element is emotional resonance. Men are wired to remember how a woman makes them feel, far more than what she says or does. When you evoke emotional highs, excitement, admiration, playfulness, mystery, you anchor yourself in his mind. He begins to replay your presence, your voice, your laughter, and your energy, as if it were a reward he cannot stop seeking. This is why men often return to a woman repeatedly, not because of manipulation, but because she has imprinted onto his emotional and neurological systems. Every positive emotional association acts as a hook that makes him unconsciously crave your attention. Polarity is a psychological force that fuels obsession without effort. Sexual desire thrives on contrast. Masculine drive is drawn to feminine energy, tension, and intrigue. You don't have to try to be desirable. You simply need to exist in a way that balances warmth and independence, softness and strength, openness and mystery. When a man senses this polarity, he cannot resist it. He may not even realize why he is drawn to you, but his body and mind respond instinctively. By embodying your own energy fully, you create the exact conditions for obsession without any overt effort. Timing and anticipation amplify his desire. Neuroscience shows that anticipation triggers higher dopamine release than the reward itself. When you create moments of presence followed by gentle distance, you allow his mind to process and crave the experience of you. He begins to anticipate your energy, replay interactions in his head, and think of you in moments when you aren't present. This anticipation does not require you to chase or perform. It emerges naturally because you have mastered the rhythm of presence, energy, and engagement. He is drawn to you effortlessly, without manipulation, because your energy has created its own gravitational pull. Another subtle, powerful factor is shadow engagement. Every man has hidden parts of himself, vulnerabilities, desires, impulses that he rarely reveals. A woman who can reflect these shadows safely, without judgment, creates profound intimacy. He becomes obsessed not because you have changed him, but because he experiences himself more fully in your presence. That sense of being seen, understood, and emotionally mirrored is addictive. You are no longer a person to chase. You are the woman who holds the psychological and emotional space that no one else can. Finally, sensory imprinting is what makes obsession feel permanent. The scent you wear, The cadence of your voice, your subtle gestures, the way you move or laugh all create neural anchors that make him remember you constantly. Even when absent, his mind recalls these sensory cues, triggering desire, anticipation, and mental replay. This is why obsession can develop without effort. You simply exist authentically, fully, and with energy that leaves an unforgettable mark on his subconscious. The ultimate truth is liberating. You do not need to chase, manipulate, or bend over backward to create sexual obsession. The most magnetic women are not trying. They are present, confident, emotionally resonant, and energetically aligned with their own power. Men are drawn to this naturally, unconsciously, and irresistibly. You can create obsession effortlessly when you understand the psychology of desire. Embrace your energy and live unapologetically. Over the next sections, we'll explore the specific strategies and subtle behaviors that turn these principles into a daily practice, how to create presence that leaves an imprint, how to evoke anticipation without effort, how to embody polarity naturally, and how to anchor your energy into every interaction, so he cannot help but be captivated. These are not manipulations, they are practical applications of human psychology that make obsession inevitable, effortless, and enduring. By the end of this guide, you'll understand how to become a woman whose mere existence triggers desire, fascination, and a magnetic pull that keeps him thinking of you constantly, without ever needing to try. Once you understand the foundations of male desire and subconscious attraction, the next step is learning how to cultivate sexual obsession effortlessly. The first element is full presence. Presence is not just being physically near him. It is about how you occupy space with confidence, calm, and authenticity. A man unconsciously reads energy before words. When you are fully present, he feels it on a deep level, even if he cannot articulate why. Your energy becomes an anchor in his mind, something he thinks about, remembers, and craves. This is why a woman who maintains her own rhythm, laughs freely, and speaks with intention leaves a lingering imprint. She does not over-explain or chase. She simply exists in a way that engages his mind and heart simultaneously. The more grounded your presence, the more natural his fascination becomes. Emotional resonance is the second key. Men are wired to respond to how a woman makes them feel far more than to what she says or does. A woman who can evoke subtle highs, through humor, intrigue, or playful banter, creates experiences that he relives in his mind repeatedly. These emotional highs function as subconscious rewards, reinforcing desire and making him crave more. Every genuine compliment, every smile that communicates warmth, every small act of shared connection strengthens this emotional imprint. When he associates you with pleasure, excitement, and emotional fulfillment, obsession becomes automatic. He begins to replay interactions, anticipate your presence, and mentally chase the energy only you provide. Anticipation and rhythm further intensify obsession. Neuroscience shows that the brain releases more dopamine when anticipating a reward than when receiving it. By consciously alternating between engagement and subtle distance, you create cycles that heighten his desire without manipulation. You may respond thoughtfully instead of instantly, create small moments of mystery, and maintain your life outside of him. This balance of connection and independence allows him to experience the psychological tension that makes obsession inevitable. He becomes drawn not to what you give, but to the experience of pursuing your presence, thinking about you, and trying to reconnect. Polarity is another psychological lever. Sexual energy thrives on contrast. Masculine drive responds to the interplay of softness and strength, openness and mystery, receptivity and independence. A woman who embodies her energy fully, showing warmth when appropriate, asserting her boundaries confidently, and maintaining intrigue in her personality, creates tension that drives obsession naturally. He is not consciously aware of why he is drawn to you. His body and mind respond instinctively to the contrasts you present. Polarity works because it triggers both emotional and physiological desire simultaneously. By naturally balancing these aspects of yourself, you become magnetic without any effortful manipulation. Nonverbal communication intensifies obsession further. Men process body language, eye contact, and tone subconsciously. A lingering glance, a subtle touch, a confident stance, or a slight pause before speaking signals emotional and sexual interest without words. These micro-signals create a powerful neurological response, embedding your presence into his mind. When combined with presence, emotional resonance, and polarity, nonverbal cues ensure that he is continuously registering you, even when you are not physically present. This silent communication builds an invisible connection that keeps him thinking about you constantly. Shadow psychology also plays a role in creating obsession without effort. Every man carries hidden desires, fantasies, and vulnerabilities, parts of himself he rarely reveals. A woman who can safely acknowledge and reflect these shadows without judgment becomes profoundly magnetic. He begins to experience parts of himself he typically hides, and the intimacy of being understood without criticism fosters deep attachment. This psychological connection elevates obsession from mere physical attraction to a complex emotional and cognitive engagement. He does not simply desire your body, he desires the rare psychological space you provide that allows him to be fully himself. Sensory imprinting is another subtle yet powerful method. Men associate experiences, emotions, and desire with sensory inputs, such as your scent, voice, gestures, or laughter. By consistently pairing your presence with these cues, you embed yourself in his memory and subconscious mind. Even when absent, sensory triggers activate desire and anticipation. The smell of your perfume, the sound of your laughter, or the curve of your smile becomes a neural cue that reinforces your presence. Over time, these subconscious associations strengthen his obsession without any effort on your part. Confidence and self-possession are the foundation of effortless attraction. A man cannot sustain obsession for a woman who doubts herself or seeks validation. True obsession arises when a woman is grounded, independent, and unapologetically herself. By maintaining your passions, hobbies, and friendships, you demonstrate that your life is rich and complete. This paradox, being available yet independent, creates the tension men crave. He is compelled to chase not because you demand attention, but because your energy and autonomy are rare, intriguing, and magnetic. Confidence amplifies every other element: presence, emotional resonance, anticipation, polarity, nonverbal communication, shadow engagement, and sensory imprinting. The most powerful aspect of creating obsession effortlessly is that it aligns with authenticity. You do not have to fabricate personality traits, manipulate emotions, or play games. When you embody your true energy, live with self-possession, and engage in emotional resonance, the psychological response occurs naturally. Obsession is not manufactured. It is an inevitable consequence of your presence, energy, and the depth of connection you allow him to experience. You become unforgettable not because of tricks, but because of who you are and how you make him feel. Finally, subtle verbal cues reinforce obsession without effort. Playful teasing, genuine acknowledgement of his strengths, and sharing small glimpses of vulnerability allow him to feel seen and understood. Men become psychologically and emotionally engaged when they experience a woman who listens, reflects, and validates their internal world. These interactions leave lasting impressions that deepen desire. When combined with all the other elements, presence, emotional resonance, anticipation, polarity, nonverbal cues, shadow engagement, sensory imprinting, and confidence, verbal interaction becomes another tool for creating obsession effortlessly. The cumulative effect of these principles is astonishing. A man begins to think about you constantly, replay your presence in his mind, crave your attention, and desire your energy in ways he cannot articulate. This obsession is sustainable because it is rooted in authentic connection, emotional resonance, and subconscious triggers, not in manipulation, coercion, or effortful games. He is captivated because of the way you exist in the world, the energy you radiate, and the psychological space you occupy. In essence, making a man sexually obsessed without trying is about being fully yourself in a way that naturally triggers desire, admiration, and psychological attachment. It requires self-awareness, confidence, presence, and subtle mastery of human desire. By understanding and applying these principles, you can create attraction that is magnetic, effortless, and enduring, without chasing, without manipulation, and without compromising your integrity. He becomes captivated because your energy, your boundaries, and your presence are compelling on every level: conscious, subconscious, emotional, and physiological. Now that you understand the psychology behind sexual obsession, it's time to step into the most important truth. The power to create desire lies entirely within you. You do not need to chase, manipulate, or try in desperate ways. Men are naturally drawn to women who exude confidence, self-possession, emotional resonance, and magnetic energy. When you live fully in your own world, pursuing your passions, maintaining boundaries, and radiating presence, a man cannot help but notice and eventually become obsessed. This is not fantasy. It is the natural consequence of aligning your energy, behavior, and authenticity with the deep structures of human desire. The first key principle of effortless obsession is presence. When you are fully present in interactions, whether in conversation, a touch, a laugh, or even a glance, you leave an indelible impression on his subconscious mind. Men respond to energy before they respond to words, which is why presence is far more impactful than effort. Every moment you give him authentic attention, without overcompensating or seeking validation, strengthens his psychological attachment to you. Presence is amplified when combined with independence. He becomes aware of your value, because you are not always accessible, and that very tension drives desire. The balance of engagement and self-possession is what transforms curiosity into obsession. Emotional resonance is another powerful pillar. Men do not simply crave physical attraction. They crave the feelings you evoke. Each laugh, playful tease, or subtle gesture becomes a neuro-emotional anchor. These small moments create emotional highs that his brain begins to associate with you, reinforcing desire at both conscious and subconscious levels. When a man experiences joy, excitement, or intrigue in your presence, he begins to mentally revisit those experiences repeatedly. So over time, this builds a pattern in his mind. He anticipates your presence, relives your interactions, and craves the energy you bring. Obsession grows naturally when emotional resonance is consistently present. Anticipation and rhythm further heighten desire without effort. The human brain releases more dopamine during anticipation than during the actual experience itself. By alternating between engagement and subtle distance, you create a psychological loop that keeps him thinking about you constantly. You don't need to play games or manipulate. Simply maintain your life, your energy, and your boundaries. The slight unpredictability of your attention generates fascination. He begins to replay interactions, imagine future encounters, and mentally pursue your presence, all while you remain grounded in your own world. Anticipation is one of the most powerful mechanisms for effortless obsession because it works subconsciously and continuously. Polarity also plays a crucial role. Men are naturally drawn to contrast, softness paired with strength, openness paired with independence, receptivity paired with boundary. A woman who embodies her energy fully, without overthinking or performing, creates the perfect tension that fuels desire. He is instinctively captivated by the contrasts you represent, often without realizing why. Polarity makes you magnetic, irresistible, and unforgettable, ensuring that his attraction extends beyond superficial appearance into emotional, psychological, and physiological fascination. Subtle nonverbal cues and body language intensify obsession effortlessly. A lingering gaze, a confident posture, or a gentle touch communicates far more than words. These microsignals trigger emotional and physiological responses, embedding your presence in his mind and keeping him engaged subconsciously. Combined with presence, emotional resonance, anticipation, and polarity, nonverbal communication ensures he is continuously processing and thinking about you. He feels drawn to you in ways he cannot explain because the cues operate beneath his conscious awareness. Shadow psychology adds depth to this connection. Every man has hidden desires, vulnerabilities, and impulses that he suppresses. A woman who can safely acknowledge and reflect these shadows without judgment becomes irreplaceable. He feels seen, understood, and psychologically safe with you, creating a level of intimacy that fosters obsession. The experience of being emotionally mirrored while exploring hidden aspects of himself makes your presence addictive. He is not just attracted to your body. He is captivated by the psychological and emotional space you provide, a space that no one else occupies. Sensory imprinting reinforces obsession without effort. The sound of your voice, your laughter, your scent, or the way you move becomes linked to desire in his subconscious. Even when you are absent, sensory triggers evoke longing, anticipation, and craving. He mentally revisits moments with you because his brain has been conditioned to associate you with reward, pleasure, and emotional fulfillment.